Well, they've certainly learnt the way out of the polytunnel. So today I'm going to be moving a bit of compost around. I think it's time to get that compost that I've sorted from the couch grass and get it onto some of these beds. I'm already starting to see a little bit more weed growth. I'd already cleared these, so I want to get it covered over. And we've got what, one here, half there, half there, half there. So about three beds when I take in the others. And I think it's that time. We're getting quite a few frosts now, and this weekend will be our first forecasted snow. So I'm looking forward to that. I love a bit of snow, but it does mean that the ground will get covered, so need to get on. So I'm still on a mission to get this pallet out, and the only way I'm going to get there is by getting the compost spread. So there's a bit of frost still on here from this morning, and this compost is so soft now that I can actually move it around with a spade rather than a fork. It's that much easier. Still a few odds and ends of weed in here, which are so easy to get out as I start to move it around and spread it. Right, I think we're going to need one barrow per about half of one of those beds. So we'll get one over and see how we get on. And what I find is where I've still got crops that are in the bed, and you're thinking, well, how do you spread it when you've got crops in the bed? The easiest thing to do is to double up on the level of compost in one half, and then as you use the various vegetables, you can spread it along. That makes it simple and you get all the movement done in one go. Right, let's get over to the beds and see what it looks like. Well, I get asked plenty of questions about no-dig, and recently I was asked whether, if you're setting a no-dig bed up, whether it's good advice to put a membrane down first before you put the soil on. And to be honest, I don't think there's a right way and a wrong way. I think probably no-dig beds work whichever approach you have, but different things happen according to what you try. And I think, in my opinion, if you put a membrane down below your soil level, the weeds that are really persistent, which in my case is like the mare's tail and perhaps some dock leaves, they'll find their way up regardless of what you put down. And if you put down something that's so thick that they won't succeed, I'm not sure that that does any of the growing processes any good. So I think if you're setting up a new bed, I know that common thought is that you can just turn your soil and put things on top like grass and turfs, and that all works well, and I've certainly found that to be the case. But if you do have persistent weeds, then I think there's nothing short of digging down a bit first. And it's not foolproof. You definitely will get some weeds come up over time. But there are many ways of doing it. And the thing to do is to have a go. Even have a bit of a trial where you do different things and see what succeeds. And then, of course, you can share it. Right, so this is my first raised bed that I'm going to add compost to. And I'm just going to make sure there's no weeds that are lying around. And then I'm going to tip it on. Very, very simple process. There we go. Get the barrel off. And then it'll be a case of just spreading it around. And I think probably on beds that are mature like these, they've probably had 3 years or so of compost spread on top of them. I'm really only looking to take it up to the level of the bed and then it'll settle. And so what's that? About 2 inches, maybe 3 or 4 centimeters, and this is so fine you can literally hand spread it, but I'll use a rake and then it'll be ready to go. And that's what filled half of one when I've spread it around. And this is my sort of final chance to get any couch grass that may have grown into the compost removed from it. I'll move that net back. That's better. And the first time I ever set these beds up, I didn't really have enough compost, and I had to buy a little bit just to cover it. And it was a fairly thin covering, but it still worked perfectly well in terms of nourishing the soil. There we go. So that's one barrow has done one half of the bed. On to the next ones. So here we are. This is a typical half bed with some beetroot still growing, and I can still harvest that for at least a few weeks more. So I'm going to just take the net back and use double the amount of compost on half the space. Right, I weeded this the other day, so I don't have any weed in there at the moment. And in it goes. So I'll just spread this out and then get another one and put it right on top. Get this covered up then, because as you've seen on my plot, cats are definitely going to use it for their own needs. And you can see a whole barrow actually just puts about, I don't know, 5 centimeters on the top, I reckon, maximum. This is a little bit more than halfway, so it's a bit thinner. I'll go and get another one, and that'll be jobs a good one. Well, the silkies have decided to have a bit of an exploration day today when I'm on the plot, and they've been right down to their old patch and now they're back. So that's been really useful. That's 2 loads in there, 1 bed, 2 loads in there, 2 beds. That one's completed 3 beds, and 2 loads in this one, 4 beds. I got another 1, 2. This one's going to be a little while 3, and I'll be in there soon 4. And then of course I've got a couple of beds down the end. But I'll show you what those 4 beds have done in the way of a dent in that compost that I had prepared. And my friend the Robin is with me again today, just making good use of any worms that I might reveal. But you can see I'm about, I don't know, just over a third through that. So that goes a pretty long way. And of course I've got that to get through yet, and some more over in the new compost area. But I've been trenching in here so that I can get this pallet out, and then that can go over to the new compost area to carry on the construction. Right, let's see if we can get it out. Well, this is a bit of a moment of truth, because I had 2 very substantial screws in here, and I'm hoping that there isn't a third at the bottom. Still got some couch grass to pull out. I'll get that out of the way first, then I can move any compost that's around the base. Yeah, let's see. Let's move in. I think it might just be a tie. Yes, there we go. So I'll just get rid of any spare compost that it's around there. And there's loads of couch grass growing in the base. Get that out, and then I can move it over into the new compost area and carry on with a bit of construction. Can't believe how much this stuff grows into the wood. It seems to get in the grain of the wood and find itself a groove. Quite incredible. Let's turn it on its top. And that should see the rest of it out. And I'll pick up those last bits of this horrible stuff in a minute. Okay, I'm off. I've got a lot of stuff just in this area where I emptied it from over there, and I'm sorely tempted to start moving it into that space. It's quite a big space when you get this out, but I think I'm going to hold on, do the last of the compost and move it all in one go. Right, this pallet is going to live around this area, so let's see. Move this one out of the way. And this pallet wasn't particularly sturdy, it's breaking apart, so I think what I'm going to do is replace it with this one. And I did all this with temporary connections, i.e. a bit of cord, and I'll get that apart, get this other pallet in its place and see where we go from there. So this one's coming out. I think this one's going to have to go on its end to get the height. And it's got that much more in the way of slats on it, which is good because I'm rather hoping I'll be able to confine the chickens in here with a bit of jiggery pokery. So I'll get on and secure this one. Well, I moved the pallet out of the chicken run and put in this, well, sort of basket, and they do seem to love it. So they're happy, and I'm happy I had the pallet. So we're looking okay. Getting this bit in the corner sorted out is, well, a bit complicated. I haven't got all the answers to how I'm going to close this gap up, or I need to maintain access because that's where the barrows of compost are going to come in and out, and the barrows of horse manure are going to go in. But it's coming together, and I've got a long pole which is in my loft. It's been there since we bought the house, and it's made of bamboo, and what I'm thinking is if I can string that pole up hung from the branches, I can get what is effectively a ridge that I could drape nets up and down. And that's the sort of thing I'm thinking about, but we'll see how we get on. Right, next. Okay, well, this is a pretty old pile of compost now, been here since the beginning of last season. And these bits that I've chucked on top more recently need to go into a different pile. They will break down, but they're just a bit woody still. So we'll get those out. And then this should give me a bit of insight, or give you a bit of insight, as to what this area offers over the other area, which of course is that I don't get any couch grass in it. So this compost, hopefully, will be weed free and good to go. So let's get these last few bits out. I would take the top off of this normally, but seeing I'm using it as a strawberry basket nursery, I'm not going to bother. Right, I think we're ready to move this over to the other side. So everything in this particular bay is pretty new stuff. Won't hurt putting this semi-rotted material on top. And I might just keep this one as green waste and bits and bobs and just see how it differs from the horse manure. Right, let's tuck into this one and see what we've got. So even though this is considerably drier under this tree, it's still very moist, full of worms, which is fantastic, and really nice compost, and of course couch grass free. Oh, how the future's going to be. Good times. Well, I'm really surprised how much space is going to be in here. You can see, I know it's pretty obvious in terms of measuring, but when you open it all up, I think I'm going to be able to get that storage container in there and the various bits and bobs all tucked away. And I'll probably put some polythene or something down on the ground so they don't just get a huge influx of that couch grass, but they've got nothing to grow into, so I'm hoping the old air gap will help prevent it from progressing. We'll see, but got to get into there pretty soon, and I'm going to make use of that. And one of the things I said I was going to do, and I'm going to have a go at now, is making some seed compost out of this, because it's such good quality. And well, we'll have a go at that now. Well, I'm going to have a sieve of this. I'm going to sieve it straight into the wheelbarrow and see what the sort of first impressions are of it. And then I've got at least one other ingredient which is nearby that I could use. Right, let's go. Wow, that is pretty special stuff actually. I think if I can get a bit of, well, coarse material in there, then that would help. And one other special ingredient that I've always thought of harvesting for this purpose, and I have used a little bit in the past, but we've got quite a lot of it on the plot, and that's harvesting from the moles. I know, it sounds strange. I'll show you. Well, it's my ambition to use as much peat-free compost as I possibly can, and this obviously meets that criteria, given that it's my own compost plus harvested mole. So let's give this a bit of a sieve and add it and see what it looks like. And this is very fine already. There are a few lumpy bits in it. Just goes to show what a mole can move, because there's quite a lot of lumps in there, but there's a lot of grit in here, which is ideal. That just adds a bit of body. So I think I'm going to go along and finish this, well, free crop up. I have this little bit of vermiculite in the bottom of this container, so I'll just pop that in as well, and then give it a good old churn and see what we've got. Well, there we are, that mixed up quite well, and it makes rather wonderful compost. And I think it probably still needs something coarse in there, some washed sand or something, so I'll keep an eye out and add that probably later. But in this state it would make good soil blocks, because it really holds together perfectly. So maybe I'll do some soil blocks with it. Maybe I'll just move it on and make it into some seed compost. But one thing's for sure, I'm going to make some more of this, because I do want to steer clear of peat-based compost. Still got the odd stone in there, but that's a success. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and if you did, click on the bell and you'll be notified of my uploads, which is every Sunday and every Wednesday at 8 PM. And why not like and subscribe as well. Have a great week. Diolch yn fawr.